Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the first ever episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me is our co-host of the show, Joel Firneno. Joel, this has been a project that we've been working on for several years and something that we've talked about but never really got the chance to put together until now. And it's been a long time coming. How are you doing tonight for our first ever episode, Pod Snipe Celly?
I am pumped, to say the least. I think for everyone that doesn't know us, we've known each other, I don't know,
7-8 years, something like that?
Yeah, since like 2012, 2013,
Yeah,
and
something like that, somewhere in
all
there.
of the arguments, fun, of course, that we have had over the years about just our own teams, the league in general, all that, and finally coming to fruition is I'm pumped.
Yeah, this has been such a fun project to be working on, and we've finally gotten the support with the Sports 2.0 network and Noob Sports as well. So we really want to give them a big shout out right off the top of the show for putting this together for us. This is incredible.
Thank them and thank you for involving me.
Absolutely. We're going to have a ton of fun tonight. All sorts of hockey topics, mostly NHL. But just right off the rip, Joel, what is your background as a hockey fan?
It's a fun one, and as controversial as it'll sound. So, growing up in Chicago my whole life, we've obviously had the Blackhawks, but they were never televised because of the horrible owner we had at the time. They were never televised until about 2007. I always knew who they were. Always knew hockey was an awesome sport. Didn't follow it as much. Now, come around 2000, basically 2008-ish, 2008, 2009, when the TV deal finally strikes for the Blackhawks. They're popping up all over TVs in Chicago. And I believe it's actually one of my cousins who would tell me, like, you know who the Blackhawks are? I'm like, of course I do. I don't watch them much, and then he's just like, just hockey in general, go watch it. I started watching it right as they were going into the 2008-9 playoff series against Detroit. Like, it was the same playoffs where, like, Patrick Kane was still a rookie, but it was his second year. He got his hat trick against Vancouver, all that good stuff. And I watched that entire Detroit series, and I basically was just like, my God. Hockey is easily now my favorite sport after 5 games. Or was it 6 games? No, it was 5 games. We lost in 5 games. So, so since then I just got obsessed, and obviously it was, I know the controversial thing, it was the right time to get obsessed because that's when obviously the mini dynasty started. But I just got obsessed. The team just got better, started following hockey in general. Fantasy hockey helped get engaged with the rest of the league. Yeah, so I've been obsessed with hockey since about 2009. High school, college, Stanley Cups, multiple games.
You're wearing the Stanley Cup shirt too, of course, for the first show. I couldn't help but notice that right away.
And I won't show it on here, but I also have a Blackhawks tattoo. So yes, there is some obsession there.
just a little bit. And I mean, over the years, I've loved to give you a hard time for being, the bandwagon fan.
Of course.
But here's the thing: is at the end of the day, a bandwagon fan is still a hockey fan, and it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things if you're late to the party, as long as you got to the party. So you became a hockey fan. And yeah, the timing was nice, but winning brings more fans. That's how it works in any sport, not just hockey. So
exactly.
That's your experience with hockey. Mine is a little bit different. Growing up in the hockey hotbed, Minnesota, the state of hockey, always grew up around the games, had high school hockey, the state tournament to watch every year, watching a lot of Gophers and Bulldogs and Bemidji State and St. Cloud and North Dakota and Wisconsin. All sorts of college hockey on up through the pros, the Wild coming to town for the 2000 inaugural season. More recently, my work has been with the Sports 2.0 network as a hockey writer and also as a play-by-play broadcaster. I'm currently with the Cincinnati Junior Cyclones. Shout out, I got the cup here tonight. Nice. Roll Clones.
Yes.
So
USPHL.
Having a great season with that. USPHL, you're exactly right. My 9th season of doing junior hockey, and absolutely love it. So getting right into things, Pod Snipe Celly, our first show. We're pumped.
Woo!
So let's talk about one of the more bizarre stories of this offseason. And this is something that it's like, how does this sort of thing happen? This isn't a story that comes up ever, because it's just so out of the blue. So for those who are out of the loop, the Carolina Hurricanes played 4 preseason games. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, what's so controversial about playing 4 preseason games? Well, in the collective bargaining agreement between the NHL and the Players Association, teams are required to play no fewer than 6 and no more than 8 preseason games. And that is a requirement in the collective bargaining agreement. However, there is no backbone for enforcing that. Teams are on their own for coming up with their schedules, who you play. Generally, you try and play teams that are pretty geographically close. With COVID going on last year, there was no preseason. This year, it was kind of scheduling those teams who are in your division, teams you're going to see early and often out of the gate. The Wild and the Blackhawks played each other twice this preseason. Our favorite clubs going at it.
They did.
Wild played the St. Louis Blues. They played the Colorado Avalanche twice, all division rivals. Carolina only played 4 games. Now, they weren't the only team in that position, but to play fewer than 6, but they were the only team to play 4. I think the Devils were in that position. Nashville in there as well. And I think there was one other. But the other hot rumor is that the Montreal Canadiens were the ones who reported to the league that, hey, Carolina only played 4 games. And after the back and forth with the Montreal tries to offer sheet Sebastian Aho, Carolina offer sheets Jesperi Kotkaniemi and picks him up and sends a first and a third round pick to Montreal, signing him to a $20 signing bonus because that's Sebastian Aho's number. Just all the little petty details. I love this rivalry that's forming between Montreal and Carolina. But Joel, I want to turn it over to you. Fair or foul, the Hurricanes only playing 4 preseason games. Do you have a problem with it? And if you do, what do you think an appropriate penalty would be?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I actually don't think I have a problem with it. Now, do I have a problem with some of the people that the Hurricanes signed over the offseason?
Yeah, a little bit.
But we're not touching on that right now. I don't really have that big of a problem with it. I guess I kind of have always looked at the preseason in hockey kind of similar to how it is in like the NFL. It's kind of like do we really need it? Like, yes, obviously NHL players play those games much more often than the actual starters in, like, say the NFL play, or even the NBA sometimes too, just because there's a little more of them. They're a little less prone to injury, in my opinion. But
well, yeah, we don't see the same preseason hockey injuries as we do in
Exactly.
football. Like you look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens this year, who all their running backs got hurt in training camp and in preseason games. Hockey, you don't necessarily see that as much. It can still happen, like we saw with Alex Ovechkin, lower body injury in a preseason game, questionable status for Wednesday night for their opener.
Same thing for us with Caleb Jones. He was slated to be one of the probably bottom feeder defensemen on our team, starting for us, though, with his brother coming over as well. But he, messes up his wrist, and now he's out for 4 to 6 weeks to start the season.
Right. So I'm one of those people who I feel like if there's a rule, there has to be a reason for the rule, and there has to be some sort of way of enforcing the rule. I think the dumbest thing that they did out of this whole story is the fact that there's no consequence. I mean, the league doesn't have a precedent for this. This could have been a precedent-setting deal, and now there's no backbone for it. So, like, how do you enforce that rule? And does this kind of encourage teams to start looking for other loopholes within the CBA? You argue about the Tampa Bay Lightning and their salary cap utilization of long-term injured reserve and having a $100 million team when it's an $81 million cap. You have that sort of controversy in there as well. So it's kind of a, where does this go? So for me, it's fair, especially within COVID, where you have to change the rules around a little bit. And to the league's credit, they did say, Carolina asked about, hey, can we only play 4? We're having a hard time getting the rest of our schedule put together. And the league said, yeah, sure. Okay, COVID, we get it. That's fine. and gave the approval to Carolina and to those other teams. But there's a little bit of a gray area there. And if Montreal is snitching to the league, I think that just adds a whole nother element of drama to this budding rivalry.
Oh, absolutely. And I personally love to see it. I mean, I love the little, jabs back and forth off the ice, whether it's organizations, players, whatever. I think there needs to be a little more of that in hockey. I think and there has been, as of a little bit more recently, and I think it keeps things exciting. But to, one more point there, I think the only other reason I guess I'm not super against it, like I don't, I think it's fair, is part of it is just, all right, well, these are the 6 to 8 games, like you said, that give you a chance to figure out who's going to crack your starting roster. It was a little bit of a longer off season with COVID. It's a weird off season. So you need to come in with a full head of steam, getting ready for that home opener this week, or, just the season opener this week. And I don't know. I think it boils down to that's kind of your own fault then. Like, all right, if you only want to play it's one of those where it's like, you know what? Hey, I get it. It's a rule, but if I'm sitting there as a league head and I'm like, you know what? Hey man, if you guys only want to play 4 games, you only got 4 preseason games to figure out your roster and figure out how you're going to kick things off. And that probably leaves you at a disadvantage. If you're cool with it, whatever.
Yeah. Do you think this is something that's ultimately going to hurt Carolina only playing 4 games instead of 6, 7, 8?
I don't think it's going to really destroy them that much. Does it maybe kind of hurt them on, sending people up, calling, or sending people down, calling people up more so than what they would have already known had they played a couple more games? Maybe. But I feel like if anything's going to hurt Carolina, it's more of just a lot of the people they shipped out and some of the people they signed. I think that is going to have a much more larger bearing on that as opposed to just 4 preseason games.
We're going to talk a little more about the Carolina Hurricanes in a little bit, but for now I want to move into some season predictions. We do have the return of hockey tomorrow night, 24 hours from now. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. They will be raising their banner for the 2nd consecutive Stanley Cup. So it's time to start looking ahead to postseason play. And Joel, right off the bat, I want to ask you who this year is your dark horse team to make the playoffs. It can be a team that didn't make it last year. And in fact, that's ideally where I'd like to go, is a team who didn't make the playoffs last year, who you think has the best chance to make it this year.
It's gonna make me look so biased and so homery.
Oh my God, you're not going here already, are you?
Yes, I am. The Chicago Blackhawks are my top dark horse team, and here's why. There are a lot of different reasons, and I have more than just them. I won't spend this entire time talking about just them, because realistically, with everything that the Hawks did this offseason, signing Seth Jones, which is huge, and again, we will talk about the back and forth comments about that at some point, but signing Seth Jones. Literally,
Seth Jones.
Yeah, sorry. Well, signing and trading.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Trading basically, the quarter that I just found in my pocket for Vezina Trophy winner Marc-Andre Fleury.
That was a huge get.
Along with, adding some depth guys that are great, 2-time Stanley Cup champion now, Tyler Johnson. He's going to be centering the line with Kane and DeBrincat, which is, to me, disgusting. That's awesome. That's a depth play.
Over Doc?
Yes.
They're not going to put Doc on that, Kirby Doc on that line?
As it appears from the last preseason game against you guys, actually, that was the closest I think we are to opening night's night's lines.
So Doc starting on the 3rd line to begin the season behind a healthy Jonathan Toews.
Exactly. Toews has not.
I had to say those 3 words, healthy Jonathan Toews, just to put a smile on your face during the show.
You're just.
I get you, man. I get you.
Hey, the playing a season without, arguably one of the best captains in all of sports was rough, but I'm just happy that it was diagnosed. It was something that was able to get fixed. He's good, and that's part of my explanation here. A healthy Jonathan Toews is playing hockey, and we were talking about preseason games. A healthy Jonathan Toews I believe he played about 4 of our preseason games, 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like he skipped a beat. Again, I don't put a lot of weight into preseason. We just talked about it, but he doesn't look like he skipped a beat. whatsoever. And right before his season off of medical issues, he put up the best season points-wise he's ever had, with, I believe it was about 84 points.
That sounds right. He was somewhere in that 80 range.
Yeah. He hasn't skipped a beat. Patrick Kane's going to do legendary Patrick Kane things like he always does. Alex DeBrincat is no longer this, is he going to be a breakout star? No, Alex DeBrincat is a bona fide star. And now he has solidified himself as a bona fide star. Then we have some depth guys that are finally breaking out, where it was like, are they going to be ready? Do we know yet? We might need one more year to figure it out. Nope, we got Brandon Hagel coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden, just basically, and this is a bold prediction. I know we'll get to that stuff. This is a bold prediction. Brandon Hagel could be Brandon Saad 2.0. But I won't get too far into that yet.
Okay.
So again, based on that, based on the additions, this team is basically one of the most unknown Blackhawks teams I've ever seen. We could be all right.
I was just going to ask, who's playing defense other than Seth Jones? That's my big concern with the Blackhawks. Why I think they won't make it, because I think they don't have the defense.
And exactly, I agree. That's the one big. And again, I think you wrote a nice article about their chances, and I think what you said pretty much nailed it. There are a lot of ifs that need to be good to go, right?
Right. There's a lot of questions about the team, but
exactly. So, I mean, here's the thing: we didn't expect, we had some break, like we signed. It was kind of funny signing Caleb Jones with his brother Seth Jones. That's kind of cool. I think he could be decent. He could be fair, but again, he's out for the first 4 to 6 weeks. Wyatt Kalnick, another guy that name has been popping up a lot, at least around Chicago. He could kind of stand out, but he's injured now as well to start the season. He should come back. I think, it's about 2 to 4 weeks he's going to miss, but again. And then I know we had another offseason signing of, Jake McCabe, another kind of depth guy. We obviously have Connor Murphy, who, me, I have never been the biggest Connor Murphy fan.
You have a love-hate relationship with Connor Murphy. Like you hate him in a way that only you can be the one to talk smack about him, because as soon as anybody else, if I say something about Connor Murphy, you are going to defend him. But you can rip him all you want.
It's true. And I think I've started to get away from it because the last the bubble playoffs when COVID first hit. So the bubble playoffs, and then obviously last season, the shortened season, like he actually showed like, okay, he's coming into his own. He's not the best. He's not the worst. He's not messing things up like he was when he first got here. So I think if we boil it down, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the Blackhawks. I'm really not that big of a, homer. I try not to be. But along with the fact, the other two I will mention is Ian Mitchell and Nicholas Beaudin. Obviously, us shipping Boquist off, he was kind of the top tiered, like he's going to be the guy back there. We switched him out for Seth Jones. I'm a fan of that move. Boquist is going to be a great player in this league. I'm excited to see him grow, but he wasn't growing at the rate I think we were hoping, at least in Chicago. So I understood the move. Nicholas Beaudin and Ian Mitchell, while they are not starting on the opening roster, in fact, actually, I think Ian Mitchell might because of the injuries, but those two are defensemen I'm looking to see not breakout seasons, but they kind of break up a little bit this season into a manageable player, potentially to maybe stars. Who knows? Again, though, I think it all boils down to that combo of the star power we have up front. I guess maybe in that sense too, when it comes to the scoring, we're starting to look like the Toronto Maple Leafs a little bit.
A little bit. All offense, decent goaltender. What's the defense going to do?
Exactly.
That's totally a fair point.
Exactly. So that's why I think they can basically, if everything goes right, everyone stays healthy, the defense develops at the rate that we are hoping they will this year, aside from the players we know are good. They can either go, all right, they were fine, but clearly not good enough yet, or they squeeze in and they end up taking, dare I say, as high as the 3 seed.
Wow. In a suddenly back on its feet again, Central Division.
Exactly.
I mean, you roll out Arizona. The other 7 teams all have a shot at making the playoffs.
Exactly.
Winnipeg, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, all
Colorado's
playoff teams last year. Dallas, did I say Dallas? Dallas didn't make it. They nearly did. Nashville was in, and then Chicago. Like all of those 7, maybe not so much Nashville. I don't think Nashville has the offense to get there. But Saros plays like he did at the end of last year. Forsberg leads the charge. The younger guys develop, they could get there. But realistically, there are 7 teams in the Central who could make the playoffs this year.
Exactly. And what helps all of those teams, including the Hawks, is the Pacific Division is just so weak.
Oh yeah. The Central is absolutely sending 5 teams to the playoffs this year. No doubt about that. I am going to go ahead with my dark horse pick to make the playoffs. And this is a team that in the last couple of years has really kind of been on the draft and develop model. And I think they finally are starting to push towards being that type of team that is going to be opening their window for the next several years. And that team is the New Jersey Devils. I look at some of the younger guys that New Jersey has with Nico Hischier and Ty Smith and Jack Hughes and Igor Sharangovich and all these younger guys who are just starting to kind of come into the league, figure it out, and kind of put together those successful seasons. But then you go and make a huge splash in free agency, going out and signing the top free agent prize defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, arguably the best offensive defenseman in the league, arguably the best two-way defenseman in the league, certainly one of the top 5 overall. Getting him on a big deal, but that is still affordable. It doesn't break the bank. It doesn't handcuff them salary cap-wise. Oh, and then they also traded for Ryan Graves from the Colorado Avalanche, who have just become a factory for defensemen lately. Graves, one of their top defensemen, who they weren't going to re-sign because they had to keep all sorts of players under and try and figure out how to afford signing Cale Makar to an extension, signing Gabriel Landeskog to an extension. They weren't going to be able to pull all that off with Graves. So now they have Graves and Hamilton as their top pairing, who are just going to play well off of each other.
Exactly.
You've got PK Subban, who you never know what you're going to get with PK Subban, but if he is,
I'm a big PK Subban fan.
If he's a 40-ish point defenseman this year, that's already up so much from last year that's enough to get New Jersey, especially as he would be a second pairing defenseman getting power play time as well. Not to mention in net, they added Jonathan Bernier to play behind Mackenzie Blackwood. Blackwood really showed some promise last season. I thought he looked a lot sharper. His numbers were better. His advanced numbers were better. And he looked like he was going to be kind of that breakout guy, but New Jersey, with injuries down the stretch falling apart, didn't quite get there. I think this is the year that New Jersey puts it all together, makes a statement, and they make the playoffs this year. And I think they make it, like you said with Chicago, they could make it about as high as a 3 seed. I don't see them getting too much higher than that.
Right.
It would take an unbelievable leap forward from Hughes and Hischier to be able to get to that mark. But you look at the way that this team is built, they're going to be competitive over the next couple of years. And I think this is just the first year of that. And the success of head coach Lindy Ruff and buying into that system with what he could do with those Devils players, I think that's going to be a really special and fun team to watch this year.
You literally took the other team I had on my notes right off the page. It was them, and there's one other team, but I couldn't agree more. And I think, and plus, that's the whole thing. This is dark horse. Mm-hmm. The other team that was in mind, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if they make the playoffs, and that's the New York Rangers.
Yes, they just barely missed the playoffs last year.
Yep.
They make the trade with the Blues. This one was a little bit weird. Sending Pavel Buchnevich to the Blues for Sammy Blais and a draft pick, I think is how that one worked out. But then they also went out and got Ryan Reeves. And now Ryan Reeves maybe on the injured list for Wednesday night. His status is uncertain. He's day to day at the moment. Lower body injury. Yeah. Weirdly enough, went into the boards in a collision with PK Subban. But if Reeves is ready to go on Wednesday night, and you're starting the season Rangers Capitals, knowing how last season ended, there could be some fireworks on Wednesday night. By the way, for everybody watching at home, if you have a comment, a prediction that you want to make, we welcome those throughout the show. We'll put them up on screen. We'll read them out. We'll answer whatever questions you guys have, comments, and spicy takes. We love spicy takes here. If you have a bold playoff prediction, somebody who you think is going to make the playoffs, and as we're going to talk about in a minute, somebody you think is going to miss the playoffs, who is expected to make it this year, we want to hear from you. So you can drop a comment in the chat. We'll put it up on screen. We'll read it, and we'll have some fun here tonight. But we want this show to be something that you, the viewers watching at home, are able to drive. We want to interact with you throughout the show as well. And it just makes it so much better for us, so much better for you. So if you have anything, we'd love to see that as well.
Also, feel free to any takes we have. Me, Dan over here, go at us.
Yeah,
I want to hear
it. If you disagree, we'd love to rebuttal. Absolutely. We'd love to hear counterpoints here. So now I want to ask you, Joel, which team that was a 2021 playoff team is going to pull a disappearing act and miss the 2022 postseason? I know you have a couple of thoughts on this one. I do as well.
And it's tough. And I don't, it's weird because, I look at the whole, you look at the picture of the bracket last year and it's like, all right, all these teams could easily just come right back. None of them made that, huge of changes really, other than obviously Carolina. And I think I have two teams. One makes a little sense. The other one is going to be what you just said, a nice spicy hot take.
Okay, let's hear it.
We'll go with the sophisticated take first, and I think it's the Hurricanes.
Is that your spicy take, or is that
No, that is I could see just something happening. Obviously, they have this controversial offseason. They ship out Dougie Hamilton. That's huge.
Yeah, letting Hamilton walk made very little sense.
And exactly, and they ended. They basically just swapped goalies as well. Mrazek is gone now, and now they're who's it again now? It's
Freddie Anderson. So they sent Mrazek or basically swapped because these were all free agent signings.
Exactly.
Mrazek to Toronto, and then Freddie Anderson to Carolina.
Exactly. And my opinion, I think Mrazek was stronger than Freddie Anderson. Granted, Freddie Anderson got completely obliterated and peppered being on the Maple Leafs, but
he faced a ton of shots just with that bad defense. But the other thing for me, though, with Carolina is the injuries, because not only that, but behind Anderson, you have Antti Raanta, who has missed 90 some odd games over the last three seasons. He's not been healthy at the end of the regular season in any of the last three campaigns. It's a legitimate concern.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, Carolina still has their stars, obviously Aho. He's gonna do great things like he always does. Teuvo Teravainen, he's great as well. You have these stars that they're gonna keep them in the running, but it's just something tells me that of the teams in the playoffs, and I'm not even saying that they're going to miss the playoffs. It was such a hard decision just to choose one normal take here.
Mm-hmm. I really want to hear what your spicy take is. I was thinking my spicy take on this one was going to be Carolina. Now that you said that, I'm going to go a slightly different direction. I want to hear who this spicy take is.
Sure, you don't want to go with yours? So your spicy take was Carolina. Okay.
We'll hear yours.
I'm for whoever is listening, I might get a lot of grief for this one, but the Pittsburgh Penguins.
That was the next one I had.
Really?
I love this. We're on the same page. Yes.
What the hell? We're supposed to be arguing.
We are, but this has turned into you're listening to the Agreement Power Hour.
Yeah.
No disagreement, no banter on this.
Not yet.
We'll get there.
But
well, shoot. Now I got to think of a third one. So you tell me why you think Pittsburgh isn't going to make the playoffs, and then I'll try and come up with another team.
From a high level first, before I mean, you're much more the stats guy than me, but from a high level first, the train's got to come off the tracks at some point. They have made the playoffs. What is it now? 11 years in a row? 15.
I just wrote a betting preview for one of our sites the other day. They have the longest active playoff streak, 15 years. And the last time they missed was the year after the lockout. So right as Crosby and Fleury are just getting in there, Malkin just coming in as well.
Exactly.
That was the last time that they missed. They've never known that.
Right. I think they are finally falling into, of course, they still have the rookies, but I think they're falling into that aging issue that the Hawks were falling into, right? I mean, Chris Letang, he's great, but he's got his health issues in the past.
He's back end of his career, yep.
Yeah, back end of his career. When he's healthy, he's pretty damn
He's good.
Yeah. If he's healthy. And not to mention, he's not getting any younger. So that whole if he's healthy raises a little bit. Not to mention Malkin is going to be out for, what is it, about 2 months to start the season?
Yeah, late September. It was like on the 23rd, I think, is when the Athletic said that Malkin would be out for 2 months, at least. So that's looking right around a Thanksgiving return. You got about 15 to 18 games in there, something like that.
And he's got to get back into form anyway. So he returns physically around Thanksgiving, but does he really get his legs underneath him before Christmas, right?
And we saw last year Malkin was kind of trying to play through that injury a little bit and just couldn't. And it had affected his game so much that even though he's been pretty close to a point per game player throughout his career, he couldn't do that last year with all those injuries.
And not to mention, and again, Sidney Crosby. He's Sidney Crosby. He's one of the GOATs. I get it.
But he's also injured to start the year.
Right. He's injured to start the year. He's not getting any younger. I'm not going to say he's necessarily regressed, but from an actual point production standpoint, he kind of has regressed. I don't know how much that has to do with McDavid basically kind of taking the mantle and being like, hey, remember when you were doing this in the 2010s? Yeah, it's my turn now.
We have a great comment here, and this is from a good buddy of ours. And people, if you're watching at home and you have something you want us to show on here too, feel free to comment as well. It is, in fact, our good buddy Jeremy asking, does Jonathan Quick have a chance for a bounce back year? I like this question a lot. Joel, I'll let you take first crack at that one.
I mean, you could take the whole description. I just have one. No.
No?
Simply
okay.
No.
Okay. I'll counter that because you know what? We've been agreeing too much on this show already.
All right, perfect.
You know what? No, I am going to put Jeremy's comment back up here. Does Jonathan Quick have a chance for a bounce back year? Yes. I think looking at how top heavy the Pacific Division is, and yes, you've got a dangerous offense with the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto. That whole squad they're starting to pull it together. Nuge. You look at the Vegas Golden Knights, who are always a solid team. They've been in the league for 4 years, and they've been in the semifinal round in 3 of them. Yep. That's a good hockey team. Seattle is going to be good. But then you look at the rest of the division. And Calgary, what are you going to get in Calgary? Vancouver, decent offense, but their defense and goaltending, I'm a little bit worried about. You look at a team like the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim isn't going to be able to score. Right. You look at a team like the Sharks, who their goaltending tandem is Aiden Hill, I think, coming over in the trade from Arizona, and James Reimer. That's that goaltending tandem. Defensively, we know they've still got Burns, they've still got Carlson, but that's about it. And expensive team, a lot of rookies, a lot of young guys that are trying to get there. I think Jonathan Quick could have a bounce back year, and I think the big part of that as well is LA has such a talented pipeline of prospects who are coming in. Right. Quentin Byfield in the mix there. Why am I blanking on his name? Turcotte, right?
Oh, yeah, Alexander Turcotte.
Turcotte, yeah. Tobias Bjornfot defensively. The Kings, I don't think, are going to be a playoff team this year. And Cal Peterson has for sure taken over as the starter there. They signed him to a long-term deal. He's going to be the guy. But I think Quick can bounce back. You look at the career trajectory he's had, and the last couple of years have kind of been a bit lower than what regression models say he might take. But the Kings have been really bad the last couple of years too. And as they're getting all this new blood into the system, I definitely think there's a chance that Quick could have a good bounce back year. Now, does that mean he'll be, a 25 to 30 win goaltender this year? No. Does that mean he's going to be maybe more in that 10 to 15 range? That could be a bounce back year, depending how much they split with Peterson. But I think it's certainly reasonable to think he could win, say, 60% of his starts, get that goals against average back down, ballpark 2.5, 2.6, save percentage 905 to 910, somewhere in that range. That would be a bounce back year, I think, by without having the numbers in front of me to know where Quick was at last year. But I think that's possible. I know you don't think so, but
I think I'm putting. I like to believe in a lot of the up and coming rookies. I mean, I feel like Spencer Knight could potentially take out Sergei Bobrovsky, but that's totally different.
Right.
Anyway, I heard some takes like on NHL Network, a couple of the previews of some seasons, and the Kings popped up, and they were very high on Cal Peterson, and I was just like, I agree, because I haven't seen anything from Quick in the last 3 years.
All right. Well, that's a good question, Jeremy. Jeremy, thank you for being the first commenter on Pod Snipe Celly. That is a historic moment, and nobody can take that away from you.
I'll give him a shout out to congrats to you and Kylie on getting engaged.
Absolutely. We celebrate all sorts of stuff on this show. That's what we're going to do. And there's good stuff to celebrate. And engagement is definitely on that list. Jeremy, Kylie, congratulations.
On that topic too, Dan, congratulations on getting engaged.
Earlier this summer. Yeah, that was a couple months ago. So
putting all you guys on the spot.
Do I dare ask when you're getting engaged? We won't go there. Anyway, next question.
Damn.
Right. We're gonna
5 years.
Keep things moving right along here. Stanley Cup matchup predictions. We kind of talked about some of those dark horse teams. I want to know right now, before the season starts, let's get it out there. What is your Stanley Cup matchup, and who do you have winning the cup this year?
It's tough. I have a couple, but I think my highest one in my head right now, they're finally going to do it. I think the Avalanche get to the Stanley Cup final.
Okay.
I know it's probably the popular take, but you know what? They've choked a little bit when they're supposed to be, and I think it's just the growing pains that they need. They need to get kicked in the mouth a couple times like they did last year to finally reach that mountaintop. So, Colorado Avalanche out of the West. Out of the East. For the sake of you know what? It can't even be a hot take. I don't know how the Lightning don't make it back a third time.
I mean, that's fair. Those are the two favorite teams right now on betting odds to win the cup. The Avalanche and the Lightning. Their roster is still so similar to last year. They lost Yanni Gordon the expansion. They lost Tyler Johnson in the trade to Chicago to get the cap room, and then David Savard leaving in free agency. But then they addressed that already within their team already. So they've got all sorts of guys in the lineup and ready to go. That's a good Tampa Bay team.
They are a force to be reckoned with. Now, to add to that, do I think they three-peat it? No.
You think Colorado takes it?
I think Colorado finally
does my boy Darcy Kemper win the Vezina this year as Colorado's
right?
goaltender?
Right?
I love that man.
I know.
I want good things for that man.
I am happy for him because he definitely took his bones when he ran into us against, when we would run into you guys.
We're not going to go there. Next segment.
No, it's fine. But jokes aside, he's always been a solid goaltender, and behind that kind of defense, that's just, for the longest time, it was always the Predators. They always had that, like, oh my God, this is the most solid defense core in the league, and no one can touch them.
All the guys they've pumped out through the years.
Exactly. Tampa started to take that with the championships. They kind of started to, when Victor Hedman emerged, they get Ryan McDonough a little while back. They started taking that cake, and then Colorado jumped in there and was just like, we're just going to become a defenseman factory, and no one's going to do anything about it.
Oh, but we're also going to keep one of the top 3 players, top 5 players, wherever you have him ranked, Nathan McKinnon.
Exactly.
And we're going to pay him about half as much as what all these other stars are making because they just happened to sign him after a down year to a long-term deal. And holy smokes, did that work out well for Colorado.
Exactly. So, yeah, that would be my top. It's probably the easy answer, but I think the Avalanche finally get there and Tampa gets there as well again. And I think the Avalanche take it. And how many games, I don't really know. I'm going to probably say 7 because that's what's good for TV.
That is good for TV. It's good for TV and it's good for us fans of the game as well.
Exactly.
I'm going to go a slightly different direction on one of those 2 picks. I'm with you. I don't see any way that it's not Colorado coming out of the West. If the Avalanche are healthy, they should be there. Yep. Now, if there's injuries to, say, Darcy Kemper, and they have to go from Darcy Kemper to Devin Dubnyk in net, that's going to be really problematic.
Oh my God, Devin Dubnyk's on the Avalanche.
Yeah, that's where he went.
I missed that one.
Yeah, that was the late season deal. The Avalanche sent another former Wild defenseman. And I'm blanking on his name right now. He played for Dallas. I can't come up with his name. It doesn't matter. Late season swap when Colorado was dealing with goaltender injuries last year, and Pavel Francouz was out, and Grubauer was out, and they traded for a guy from Buffalo, and he was out. The right before the trade deadline, that was their get, was Colorado traded for Devin Dubnyk from San Jose. Greg Patterson, it finally came to me. Greg Patterson, that's the defenseman. Apologies to Greg Patterson. But yes, that was the trade. He's
a regular viewer.
Greg Patterson, yeah, if he's watching this, I would personally apologize. And I want to thank you for watching this, because I don't know how in the world you would have heard about this show, but thank you for tuning in for our first episode, Greg Patterson. So yeah, Colorado has Dubnyk now. That's the long way of saying. But unless there's that type of injury, unless Cale Makar goes down, unless McKinnon goes down, Landeskog, Grant, unless it's one of those big guns going down, if they're a healthy team coming into the playoffs, I don't see how Colorado doesn't come out of the West. It will probably be Colorado and Vegas in the conference finals. There is a chance that Seattle gets in there. There is a chance Edmonton gets there. I don't think that Edmonton and Seattle, good as they are going to be good enough to unseat Vegas. I think that's your conference final matchup. Now, here's where you and I are going to go a little bit different here.
I'm excited.
I am all in on the Florida Panthers to go to the Stanley Cup final as the Eastern Conference representative. And not only am I picking them as the Eastern Conference representative, I am picking them to win the Stanley Cup. I know this is off the board.
What is happening
I
here?
know this is
one episode in and I'm out.
For everybody. He's already leaving. No, okay, here's where I'm at.
I need to hear this.
Just a couple days ago, the Panthers signed Alexander Barkov, 8-year extension. He's their guy for the foreseeable future. They bring in Reinhart from Buffalo. And Reinhart, 25 goals last season, tied for 7th in the league, leading a bad Buffalo team. And he was putting up those numbers with Jack Eichel out injured. He was putting up those numbers with the number one cop on the force, our guy, Sergei Bobrovsky, Florida Panthers. Gotta love it.
You're off the force, Bobrovsky.
HP, thanks for tuning in. Reinhart putting up all those kind of numbers and having to do it without Eichel, having to do it without Taylor Hall, who was traded to Boston at the deadline. And he just kept producing 25 goals on a bad Buffalo team that lost 18 games in a row last season. And he still was a part of that team and putting up numbers. Now he's in Florida. Now he's going to be playing on a line probably with Huberdeau, maybe with Barkov. He's probably going to be their top line right wing, which would put him with Barkov and opposite Carter Verhaeghe. They're getting Aaron Ekblad back defensively. This is a team that last year took Tampa Bay to 6 games in the playoffs. And they arguably got better in net having Spencer Knight, who started in that playoff series. He started the elimination game, and I think he started the game after that too, games 5 and 6. He beat Tampa Bay in the playoffs already in his playoff debut, and he's going to be good. This is a good Florida Panthers team. And I may be alone in saying that they're going to be the ones to come out of the East, because you've got teams like Boston. Boston's going to be good. You've got teams like Toronto. Toronto's going to be good. Boston may not have Tuukka Rask in net this year. He's still a free agent. He's still recovering from injury. So Linus Ullmark is going to be their goaltender to start the year. Defensively, they did not look the same last year without Zdeno Chara.
Nope.
They've still got McAvoy. They've still got good defensemen on the team. And they've still got an excellent top line with Marchand and Pasta and Bergeron. I know we hate him. I know we hate him. We don't like Boston. That's fine. We're allowed, but it's a good line. Objectively, you can't deny it. It is a good, productive line. But where's the depth? Taylor Hall in the mix as well. They've got a good top 2 lines. Can the depth scoring be there? Can the checking be there? Are they going to be there defensively? And are they going to be there in net as well? Jeremy Swayman is the other goaltender there. Is he ready for that kind of a workload? And we've seen some of that rush development with goaltenders like Darcy Kemper, who we talked about earlier in the show, as the type of guy who may not make that jump right away.
Right.
I think the Florida Panthers. I decided this 10 seconds ago.
Wow.
I thought that Florida was going to be good. I thought that Florida was going to unseat Tampa Bay. And you know what? Screw it. I'm all in. Florida Panthers over the Avalanche for the Stanley Cup. That's my take.
That's a take I wasn't expecting to hear. It's a very respectable take. You're very right. And I could see them going deep in the playoffs. I don't know about the Stanley Cup final, but I'm at least with you that they can go deep and they can make some noise.
I think they're probably going to finish second behind Tampa Bay in the regular season.
Yep.
But I think they're going to get there. I think they're going to get there the rest of the way after that.
Huh.
Moving on, we've got 3 quick over-unders, and then we're going to go to our prime segment, something we're really excited about. But we're going to start with some over-unders. I've got 3 of them here. We'll try and keep them quick. Over or under 120.5 points. So you have to take an over-under for Connor McDavid. He had 105 points in 56 games last season. It was the most productive hockey season since the 1990s with Mario Lemieux. It's unheard of in this era to be putting up numbers at the pace that McDavid was putting up last year. This year, is the division tougher than last year? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, you get Winnipeg, or not Winnipeg. You get Vegas, you get Seattle, who are going to be decent defensively, but you've also still got Calgary and Vancouver. You've still got some bottom feeders with Anaheim and with San Jose. LA. Over or under 120.5 points for Connor McDavid.
And I get to go first?
You go first. Yep.
Ooh.
I'm going to put you first on all of these.
And I am just starting to get into the sports betting world. So for anyone who's done it a bunch and who's just starting like me, smash the over button. There is a reason his name is McJesus. Connor McDavid is probably the best player I think I've ever seen. And I mean, I know you've been watching hockey longer than me, but I was blessed with someone like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, at least on the home side of things. We were blessed with watching Sidney Crosby as much as we might not have liked him. Watching Connor McDavid is the most fun thing you can do if you're watching a hockey game.
Absolutely.
Anytime Edmonton is in Chicago, I am trying to buy those tickets to go see him, even if he destroys us. I'm going to say I'm going to take the over.
I got to see him once live. I had just shy of center ice seats and about 20 rows up, had a perfect view of the ice. And every single time McDavid was on the ice, I was not watching where the puck was. I was watching where he was, because he's just that special of a hockey player that you can't take your eye off him.
I can relate. I've seen him once as well. I think I was in like the 300 level, but I had pretty much basically center ice, but 300 level. So I saw everything. Same deal. Every time I saw the little screen pop up and it's like 97 is on the ice, I'm watching him. And ironically enough, we held him off the scoreboard that night. But
that's you got to appreciate that when you do it, because that doesn't happen very often.
Yes, but before I digress too much, I'm smashing the over. He is going to it won't be that far over it. I don't see it going too nuts, but yeah, I think he'll do it.
120.5 is about what I saw on a few different projection models as kind of like where they think roughly he's going to end up. Yeah. I'm going to take the under, but like you, I don't think it's going to be by much. I think he's absolutely going to get 100 if he's healthy. I think right around we'll say 112 to 114, somewhere in there is about right. I think that's where he's going to end up. I don't think he gets to 120, but as a hockey fan, I would absolutely love for him to prove me wrong. I would love for him to get to 150 and just completely blow this out of the water. If he just blows it up this year, that is so good for him. It's so good for the game of hockey as a whole and what he can bring to the league. If he is hitting 150 points and scoring goals every night and highlight reel after highlight reel, it's good for the league and it's good for the game and it's good for him. So while I would love to see him hit the over, I think he's going to end up under, but I bet it's going to be close.
You're probably taking the smarter approach. I'm just kind of, you know what? Screw it. He's going to hit the over. He's going to do it.
That's what we do. I look at numbers and say, here's what the numbers say, and here's what the numbers are telling me. And you are I'm going with my heart on this one. And full bore, that's what you do, and that's how you've always been.
The one other take I can have on it where he could hit the over is in a full 82 game season. How many points did Nikita Kucherov have? It was the highest we've seen in a long time. What was it again?
A couple years ago. Give me a second to look that one up, but keep going with your point.
So, and actually, I actually just pulled it up. So, in a full game, in a full season, obviously, you had the 105 points.
128.
128 exactly.
Is what he had in an 82 game season. That was 2 full seasons ago. So that was 18-19.
Yes. So
he didn't play last year.
On that point, 128 points.
Mm-hmm.
Nikita Kucherov is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. He'll continue to be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He's up here. But as great as he is, Connor McDavid is all the way up here to where you can't see me on my screen anymore. That is another thing. If Nikita Kucherov can hit 128, why in God's name can't Connor McDavid hit 130?
Well, I think part of that too is look at who Kucherov is playing with. When he's got guys like
McDavid's playing with.
Okay, but McDavid doesn't have Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev. He doesn't have those guys defensively.
I get that.
He doesn't have Braden Point. He's got Leon Draisaitl, who is very good. But outside of Draisaitl, where is the rest of that offense going to come from? You get to a team like Tampa Bay, where they can play Steven Stamkos on their second line. They can play Anthony Cirelli on their second line.
Right.
You know, up and down that roster, there are guys who are fourth line guys on Tampa Bay that would be second line guys elsewhere. They're just that deep of a roster.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where I think Kucherov is able to get ahead and get to that 128 mark. But let's not deny that McDavid absolutely has the talent to get there. I think the difference, though, is just in the talent around him to get there.
I want to get to the next over-under, but the only other thing, Victor Hedman is amazing. But do you know now who Connor McDavid gets to have on his probably top power play line?
Yes, I do know who he's going to have. He's going to have Darnell Nurse on that top line. He's going to have Tyson Barrie on that, or not? Tyson Barrie.
Tyson Barrie.
Tyson Barrie on that line.
That's two. You're missing one.
They don't have Ethan Bear anymore.
Listen.
No, I know who it is.
Listen,
he's not gonna. Duncan Keith is not gonna play on Edmonton's top power play unit. He might play power play 2. There's no way he's playing power play 1.
Why not? Someone with
that
kind of experience with
team.
Any coach can look at that and say, look at the experience he had with guys like Taves and Kane. Put him on a line with McDavid. Oh.
Yeah. Darnell Nurse on that line versus Duncan Keith on that line. That's already more results. You see it last year with how many goals that Darnell Nurse had. All right.
I'm just saying.
We'll
move on.
We'll switch gears. Our next over-under. This is our second of 3 over-unders. Over or under 45.5 goals for Alex Ovechkin.
Well, you go first this time.
Okay, well, before we do that, we're going to put up HP's comment. Keith won't see a minute of power play time. HP, we know he will.
Don't talk about one of the best defensemen to ever play the game like that, all right? Now, let's move on.
Over or under? I am so torn on this one. I think 45, Ovi has been such a consistent 50-goal scorer throughout his career. And we talked about it earlier with teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins, who their stars are in the back end of their career.
Right.
Ovechkin being injured to start the year, and we don't know the extent of the injury. We've heard that short-term, not long-term, but every year we hear that, and there's somebody who's hurt where it becomes a long-term deal. For me, I'm taking the under, if only because he's not starting the year healthy. If he was fine and good to go, for me, I'm taking the over. And not by much, again, like 46 to 50. He might be able to get 50. He's already tied the record for most 50-goal seasons. But I think just because of that injury, it's going to be under.
We agree on this one.
Okay.
I'm also going to take the under. Not just for the fact, too, he's starting the season not healthy, right? So that's already going to take some of the games out of his pocket that he can get it in. Could he prove me wrong? Oh my God, yeah. But I'm going to take the under. Not to mention too, look, I get it. Tom Brady puts this notion to bed, but Ovechkin's not getting any younger either. And you're gonna
Brady's a different case and a different.
I get it.
And he, with no disrespect to Tom Brady, he hasn't taken the same kind of hits through the years that Ovechkin has had either.
Absolutely not.
So
exactly.
There is that.
It comes to my same point I had earlier in the show about the Penguins. This train that has just been going full steam ahead, it's got to lose at least one wheel on the track at some point. So I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take not that far under, though, just like you. I could see him breaking 40.
Yeah.
Even in the short time he has, but I'm definitely smash the under on that one.
And our last one, over or under a half of a suspension for Brad Marchand and for Tom Wilson. Will either Brad Marchand or Tom Wilson be suspended this season?
I am going to hit the over on both of them.
Okay.
I mean, so just to kick it off again, Brad Marchand is a star in this league. He's putting up points that no one ever saw coming. I will give the man credit where credit is due. He's damn good. So get that aside. Tom Wilson, on the other hand, is not even close to a star, in my opinion. And I mean, we see him doing stuff every single year. Wasn't it just last year he was pounding, I forgot who it was, his head into the ice?
The Rangers, he was putting his head into the ice.
He was pounding his head into the ice. It was ridiculous. I think he did that same game a lot less magnified, because I think that was much more magnified that game. He did something to Panarin. I can't remember what he did.
Well, he had dragged Panarin to the ice after Panarin pulled him off. So it was
that's what it was. Yes.
Buchnevich. So he's pushing Buchnevich into the ice. Yep. Panarin pulls Wilson off, and then Wilson takes Panarin down.
So I don't see that slowing down. Do I see it being, more than like 2 or 3? I don't think so, just because I feel like it's been taking a lot to get anything over like a 3-game suspension nowadays, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm going to say Tom Wilson definitely at least 1 game, and Brad Marchand. You know what? I'm going to change my answer. Tom Wilson over, but Brad Marchand under.
I'm going to take the under on both. I agree with you on the Marchand take that Marchand has become a star in this league. And he's cleaned up his act from where he was. He's not licking people anymore. And whether COVID has anything to do with that, we'll let that be an aside.
Right.
But he's not licking people anymore. He's not slew-footing people anymore.
Exactly.
He's not getting up under your skin he finds ways to agitate you and kind of get you off kilter. But he's a player who can be in an 82 game season. He can be an 82 point player.
Right.
He can be on that type of level.
Right.
So he doesn't need to be getting into all the extracurriculars. And knowing that Boston is in probably the toughest division in the league, they can't afford to be without that type of production. So him taking on a suspension, he's going to know in the back of his mind that he can't take that on.
Yep.
Wilson, I think, is in a similar position where even though he's not going to be an 80-point scorer in this league, there's still going to be offensive duties that are expected of him, especially playing on a line with Alex Ovechkin. I think we've seen that the league is kind of softer on him suspension-wise. I was stunned that he did not get suspended last season.
Yeah.
But I don't think – we might have lost Joel here. That's not great. Well, we'll just keep going here on that Tom Wilson take. Oh, there we go. We got you back.
What do you mean? I've been here the whole time.
You disappeared. I had a black screen on my end. It looked like you had disappeared. Oh, well, never mind. We'll move on.
Secret.
So Tom Wilson, I think under. I think he also looks at last season and goes, maybe I'll have to fight the Rangers one of these games. But after that, that's it. It's done. Put it to bed, move on, and on to the next one.
That's fair.
All righty. It is time. We have teased this segment all day. We're going to debut a segment that we like to call 2 minutes for roughing. And what this segment is going to be is every week, whether it's Joel, whether it's myself, whether it's a guest that we happen to have come on the show, they're going to get 2 completely uninterrupted minutes to rough up whatever subject they want. This could be Joel ripping on me. This could be me ripping on Joel. I know that's a dangerous, dangerous game to be playing, but that's what we're going to do. 2 minutes for roughing. We live for the danger here. So, Joel, tonight I am giving you the first ever 2 minutes for roughing. I have 2 minutes on the clock. I will sit here and hold my phone up with the 2 minute countdown timer. You will get 2 uninterrupted minutes to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and your time starts now.
So, this is a topic that I know is going to get through a lot of people here. It's known. I'm from Chicago. I am sick and tired of people trying to tell me that New York style pizza is the top pizza in this country. Because it is and always will be Chicago style pizza. And that's 2 different styles of pizza, by the way. That's a whole nother 2 minutes for roughing I could go on. We have our deep dish. We also have tavern style. Basically thin crust, but slightly thicker. They slice it into squares. You get them in bars, pubs, all that good stuff. I will not hear it anymore. And I am a fan of all the Barstool Sports pizza reviews. I'm a fan of all of that. But I will not hear that New York style pizza is better in any way than Chicago style pizza when it comes to the sauce or the types of cheese we use, the types of dough with cornmeal. No one else does that, and it's perfect. And I don't want to hear that a deep dish is a casserole. What does that even mean? You've never had it if you think it's a casserole. And if you don't like that much cheese, I don't know if I can trust you as a person. To wrap this up, I only got, 40 seconds left?
40 seconds.
Would you much rather have thin crust that's still not that thick, has a lot of ingredients on it, has some great underlying seasonings that's going to give it some pop? And would you rather have a deep dish pizza that's basically just this giant tub of cheese, meat, and whatever else you want to put on it? Or would you rather have
20 seconds
cardboard with a little mozzarella melted on it and, some sauce kind of sprinkled on it, and you have to fold it. I don't want to have to fold my pizza when I eat it and eat it like a sandwich. It's not a sandwich. It is a pie. And thus, Chicago-style pizza will always be better than New York-style pizza.
Well done. Our first ever 2 minutes for roughing segment is in the books.
I hope I pissed off a lot of people with that.
you might have. I'm not trying to lose viewers on the show, but I think HP is on board with you. Louder for the people in the back.
Thank you, HP.
He loves that take.
Thank you.
Here's where I'm at on New York versus Chicago pizza. I just want some freaking pizza, man. I don't care if it's thin crust. I don't care if it's deep dish. I don't care if it's Detroit style and cut into squares. I don't care. Whatever. I don't care if it's frozen. I don't care if it's fresh. It's definitely better fresh. Let's not kid ourselves here. There are some frozen pizzas that are worth eating. Let's not joke around here.
I agree. I ate one last night.
But exactly. See, that's my point. At the end of the day, just give me some pizza. That's all I'm asking for.
I agree. But you're from Minnesota. We take our pizza seriously. And Minnesota pizza.
Minnesota doesn't take pizza seriously?
You do. Shout out Thirsty Pagan. I love that place.
That's in Wisconsin.
Never mind.
That's Superior, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's what I thought. Buddy.
All right. Well, never mind. Wait. What? No.
Yeah.
No. Wait.
Yeah, it's Superior, Wisconsin. It's right over the bridge.
We were in.
Nope.
Were we really in Wisconsin?
We were really in Wisconsin.
Oh, geez. Well, sorry, Minnesota.
Well, so Joel is just a hater. That's what we learned tonight.
No.
All righty. Well, that is.
Shout out, Lloyd.
Wow. That is.
I miss you, my guy.
That's a friend that I have not heard from in a long time, and for two, have some standards. I have standards. I have been through a few of these Chicago pizza places that I like. Shout out Abby's Pizza, hooking us up all the time. Hey, I've been to more than you know. I've been to more than I know. I don't even remember the names of all of them that I've been to. But at some point, that may be a segment that we do here.
That's fine.
On Pod Snipe Celly is I will be going to Chicago a few times in coming months. That's where we're going to have our wedding.
I will.
So it'll be just outside of Chicago. It's going to be a great wedding, a fun place, and we're looking forward to it.
I will answer that after you're done.
Coming back from the shadow realm to school me. I love that. Last question before we go. This one comes from HP. And this could be a whole segment too. We could talk about this a long time.
I will keep it quick.
Favorite Chicago pizza place? I'll give you 30 seconds and then we'll wrap it.
I will have to rank my top three because it's hard to it's like picking a favorite child. Number one has got to be Lou Malnati's.
Love it.
Number two has got to be Giordano's. And number three is not even deep dish. It is tavern style, and it is called Michael's Pizzeria and Tavern, and it is local to Wrigleyville over here where I live, and it is some of the best tavern style pizza I've ever had in my life.
Well, there we go. We've got our top three pizza places from Joel. That is it for Pod Snipe Celly. For everybody who has been watching at home, for everybody who commented throughout the show, thank you so much. We would not be doing this if there weren't people tuning in. And thank you for tuning in to hear a couple of puckheads like us go nuts and talk about everything from the NHL to Chicago pizza here on a Monday night. Going forward, we are going to be switching to Tuesday nights. We only wanted to put this one on a Monday so that we were not conflicting with the return of NHL action tomorrow night. So going forward, Tuesdays, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, be here. We will be right back live, 8 o'clock next Tuesday night. Mark your calendars. Yep. We hope you will join us then. For Joel Firneno, I am Dan Bradley. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.